Greetings and welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Colin for Video Game Book Club. The rules are simple. One person picks a game and you got to beat that game in a month, and then
and
you get to
not
pick
cheat
that next game for everyone to play once your month comes around. Still just me and Colin.
forever.
What was the game?
Tales of the Abyss.
Why is it just you and me, dude?
I'm not touching that with a fucking
Alright.
10-foot pole, dude.
It turns out that nobody else can do what we do. We are one of one, each of us.
Brad could almost do it.
No, he couldn't. He couldn't. Well, he could do this game. I don't know if he could do. If he could do it, he'd be doing it.
He could do it. He did it for a brief period, which is more than anyone else can say. And that's impressive.
That is more than anyone else can say.
And if Brad can do it, then anyone can do it. Because he's lazy.
He is lazy. But not so lazy that he would, that he would skip everything. Graphics.
Well, this is where I fucked up. I didn't see that there was an HD pack to make this game not look like shit. So they kind of look like shit, and the emulator's glitched. But when it works,
Can't even talk about that. That's not fair, in my opinion.
I'm not gonna put it against the game. It definitely was annoying, but when
it
it
looked fine.
yeah, there's nothing like crazy, but more so the animations are kind of goofy. Especially in cutscenes, it looks like they run like 7,000 miles an hour.
Yeah. And character design was decent. Like Lemon looks hilarious.
And what was it? Oh, the faces. Especially Luke's, the emotes.
Yeah, dude. Luke's surprise face is hilarious. What do you call it? Not Maru Maru. What's his name?
That's from Blue Dragon.
He is the Maru Maru of this
Yeah,
game.
every JRPG.
Mew.
Yeah, Mew. Horrible character.
He's one of my favorite characters. We'll get to that. The animations are like good in some places and not that great in others. Because like a lot of enemies just kind of like rub into you, but some have like full swings and all of that shit.
There were some cool looking bosses. If there was also like no cool areas, like I can't think of an area that was actually that cool.
No, because
It was all just like city or cave. There's a couple.
and the overworld was unbearably bland, like really, really bland. It's big and it has biomes, but bland nonetheless.
Like the coolest place was probably the Tower of Rem, but also it was lame because it's just kind of, I don't know, anticlimactic to what I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, it was kind of a nothing thing. It was pretty hyped up by some guy.
It was the
But
MacGuffin, dude.
yeah. Um. Yeah. I don't know. That's probably one of my biggest gripes when it comes to like the art design of this game is that it didn't make the overworld interesting enough to the point where I wanted to explore more of it. It was always just like a means to the end. However, this game has weapons in cutscene, and I always love that. And I don't think there's an excuse not to have that. Now seeing how old Tales of the Abyss is and the fact that Tales of the Abyss had that.
It is weird. It's like every JRPG, but like only your weapon changes, never your armor.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
I still don't understand what's with the fucking Oregon Trail, like when you press select for the people to talk to each other. Like that looked horrible. That looked really bad.
Yeah, it looks in that HD thing I'm talking about. It looks so much better. Like the text is so crisp. It does look like shit though.
We missed out. That's all that is.
Yeah,
We missed
I
out.
noticed that that was a thing 40 hours into the game, and it took me 42 hours to beat it. So
Yeah, which I have no idea how you were able to beat it in 42 hours. Did you like go step by step to make sure you didn't do any extra shit?
No, I think because I did do some extra shit. Like I ended up doing some quests where I had to catch pigs, and I got a couple cooking recipes. I just don't think I ever got extremely lost.
Yeah, I think that's where my extra 10 hours went to is grinding before I had to and getting lost. A lot of it was getting lost cuz it's so easy, which we'll talk about later. So easy to get lost. Um
It doesn't look bad. It's kind of uninspired, but it's also old.
yeah. But it's also massive, you know? It's old and absolutely massive.
And it felt massive too, like lengthwise. But that's because the pacing's fucked. But
That will be an extensive conversation about pacing. We're gonna have to pace ourselves to get onto that one. I do have one thing to say about sound design. The voice acting, while not the greatest all the time, is plentiful. Like so much voice acting went into this game.
I was surprised actually that b- every main story cutscene is voice acted,
Yeah,
and
we're
even some side
talking.
quest stuff.
It's got to be at least 10,000 pages of voiced acting.
And it's not unbearable.
No.
But
Anytime a character was speaking, it wasn't hard for me to listen.
and you like cuz how am I forgetting his name? The priest guy, the boy.
Mar?
No, 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 no. The one with green hair.
Sink. His name is
No, no, no,
Sink.
no. But the good one.
The girl?
It's not a girl, but you know.
It's Ion, and
Oh
that's a
yeah, yeah.
girl.
That's because that's the like the Tales of character that's supposed to have like the annoying voice. Because never
Yeah.
get and even his wasn't that bad. It's not a girl. What are you talking about?
You mean to tell me that the character that has pigtails and a dress and white stockings and has these big doughy eyes with their effeminate voice isn't a girl?
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that they know that that was supposed to be a girl, and they made her a guy for a one-off joke.
Wasn't no, dude.
Hey, you look like a girl, Ion.
That's just it's just a little boy. I never thought it looked like a girl.
Dude.
I didn't, dude.
What boy has pigtails?
I'm sure there's a boy in a video game with pigtails other than this game.
Uh, Luke's character cutting their hair was pretty cool. I didn't think it was something that I would really appreciate, but at the end of the game, I realized that the whole Britney Spears hair cutting thing was necessary, and they needed to do something with him. And cutting his hair was like probably the simplest and most straightforward thing.
Also,
But
he
I like,
looks way cooler after because he looked completely fucking stupid.
yeah, it looks like well, Ash looks like a lion, you know. So it's just like,
Oh, and there's
all right, it's
costume.
time to get the story.
I didn't know there was costumes either until
I did not know there was costumes until the fiasco
yeah until
of that which will not be spoken of.
we'll call that enemy at the odds gate.
Yeah, against all odds.
Yeah.
So
Story.
story is long. That's my take
What
on it.
about
It's a
what
long.
about gameplay? Gameplay should probably
Well,
come first.
gameplay first, long. All right, gameplay first,
What do
because
you?
story is gonna take up much more time.
Yeah.
Um, you go first because I'm going to be really negative.
uh, there's not a lot of pos. I think you played the game in the worst way though for gameplay. You
But
easily picked the most boring character to play.
I played all of them at least for a little bit. I played Natalie, not Natalie,
Natalia.
Natalia for about 2/5
That has to
of
be
the
the most
game.
boring shit I've ever seen, though. You were just hitting A, shooting arrows.
Yeah, but she did so much damage that it was like there was no reason to not play her.
And the combat, it's okay. I don't think it's horrible.
Eventually,
I don't know. It felt the same all the way through to me. I mean, it got better, but it started out like whatever, and then it was like, okay, it's okay. I do think locking all the AD skills behind like leveling and shit is really dumb.
yep, locking anything behind anything in this game becomes very tedious pretty fucking fast.
But they definitely did that for replayability. That's my only like. I don't know why else you would do that.
Yeah, I mean, Tales of Berseria did the same thing where it's like you're level 45 and you're getting new AD skills. But I would never play this game twice because the combat isn't good enough to do another playthrough. But I guess the story is dense enough to where like you could play it again and not remember everything. Because I'm gonna be honest, the game did too much.
No, no,
The
no. It's
game
it's
did.
it's definitely impossible to remember everything.
It's so dense. I'm gonna rant about the S flag real quick.
Dude, that's your fault.
It is not my fault, okay? So this game has an item called the S flag, all right? And this allows you to change your walking character in the overworld. I did not know this, okay? So I'm like 25 hours in without the S flag. And I'm jealous because everyone else that's playing the game, naturally, gets to choose what character they get to walk around with. And I got shit ass Luke, which we'll talk extensively about later. And I'm sick of seeing Luke. I didn't like Luke that much. Um, so turns out it's in the fucking Cheagle Forest that you go to at the beginning of the game. I just missed it somehow. And and then I go back and at my point in the story in the game, I can't even get to the Cheagle Forest anymore. So I had to play the game for another 10 hours before I got the S flag, practically at the end of the game. So I spent the whole game not even using the character that I wanted to use to walk around with. And I think locking that behind an ability, I mean behind a item, is just absolute nonsense. There's no reason that item should exist.
It shouldn't, but it's also like it doesn't. It's one of those things that doesn't matter, but it is like why.
Um it sucks to navigate. It really does.
It sort of. I don't know. I like sometimes I feel that, and other times it's like this isn't that bad. There's just a couple spots for sure.
Maybe it's less that it sucks to navigate, but it's more that they keep telling you to go someplace, and then at the last second they tell you to go someplace else, and you're like, "Oh, this is a cool little shtick," you know. But they do it for every single fucking mission in the game. So you're like 40 missions in, and they're still telling you to go to places before the place that you want to go. They're like, "Oh, go to Batical." And then you're ready to leave and go to Batical, and as you, like, leave the like, to go to Batical, they're like, "Oh, well, let's go to Sheridan first." And then you go to Sheridan, and you fucking complete that quest, and then they're like, "Yeah, no, we're going to Batical, but, let's check out the Tower of Rem again." So you go back to the Tower of Rem, and you're like, "Okay, now we're going to Batical?" They're like, "No, no, 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 we wanna go to Yoria first." And it's like, "Dude, why'd you even tell me we were going to Batical?"
Got errands to run, dude. I feel like
It's insane.
that's more of a story. I guess it is gameplay, but it's because of the story that it's like that.
Yeah. The gameplay is padded extensively, like, and it blends into the story because the gameplay and the story blend in together a lot. So
Yeah,
we'll probably have to jump in back and forth, but like a lot of the gameplay is sitting there and listening to the story. Like I think there was a 5-hour stretch where I didn't even attack a monster. A lot
It,
of the gameplay is walking from place to place to listen to more story.
it like borderline, like not borderline, that's insane, but it does feel like almost a visual novel at some points where there is no gameplay other than
Yeah.
moving the character.
I think the best way to describe it for me at least is that in Persona 5 there's the portion where you meet Futaba for anybody that's played Persona 5, and that just grinds the game to a halt. And that's what half of this game is.
Yeah,
Is like exactly that. Is
except I don't want to say less interesting. It's just dense because it's all political, like, and a lot of jargon, and not
and
relatable in a lot of
no.
ways.
No. Well, that is a huge problem in my opinion. There is not a lot of like relatable characters. There's a lot of relatable themes and a lot of allegories, but again, that's story. Um, Gameplay is also broken to an extent, in my opinion. You can luck into amazing weapons that help you immensely that you wouldn't get otherwise, but it's not like it's a difficult game to begin with. I think I died twice total.
Yeah, I didn't. I only died on bosses, and it was like clearly I'm underleveled, and it's why I died. It was very obvious.
Uh, this game has some of the worst missions I've ever played in an RPG. Because it's one thing to make you walk somewhere and talk to somebody, like that's pretty stock and standard. It was just like really like big in this game. But there's this thing called the Marsh, and its only redeeming quality is that it doesn't take that long. But you move pretty slow to begin with, and the Marsh like puts your speed by half. And then it gives you a monster that you have to run away from that you can't kill. It just respawns. So you have to go up 2 inches, kill the monster, or run away from it. Go up 2 inches, the monster finds you again. You run away from it. Go up 2 inches until you're out of its range, and it's just a
do,
horribly designed level.
do you remember in the beginning of the game? It's not the beginning, but like early on, you're on the boat, and it's where you first meet Dist, and you fight. You have to like catch his robot, and he gives you boots that make you run faster.
Yeah,
I was like, why? That's as pointless as the S flag. It's like, why do I have to wait 4 hours to run double the speed?
yeah.
I didn't understand that. I was like, I was happy. I'm like, because you clearly move way faster, but it just seemed weird.
Um, the whole third act of the game is playing cat and mouse with NPCs. It got really fucking annoying.
See, the third act's good. It's just the second act was the same thing, but even worse.
The second act was the worst, right? I guess the only way to put it into story, um, right before the mining town fell, right after the mining town fell, up until the third act was not good at all. Um, Another gameplay issue, which is probably the worst level in the game, worse than the Marsh, is when you have to go from like the big city to the other big city and the nations are at war and
Oh
you have to
yeah,
like take a rest every 5 minutes
yeah. And it's like
because
it's like each time you rest, it's a day, and it's like you literally moved 5 feet.
yeah, which means that throughout the entirety of the game they're staying awake for weeks at a time, but for some reason you have to sleep every 10 minutes or 10 seconds, you know.
That part felt like padding. I was like, this doesn't need to be here. This added nothing.
I think that the game provided enough variety of monsters and enemies and moves and just like it had enough to be interesting. It's just that like if you do too much combat, the combat got boring. And then if you do too much story, then you want to do combat, but then you do too much combat and it's boring again. So I don't know like how to fix that.
Yeah, big issue with the comp. There's like the skill ceiling seems very low. Like, I don't feel like I could do that crazy of shit. Like, I'm sure you can, but I never felt like, oh, I could, like, do some insane stuff if I did this. It was more like, no, you just do this, like, 7-hit combo and hit the spell and then keep hitting the enemy.
Yeah, the most like technical thing you do in this game is like your regular attack string into your special attack string ender into like the super move. Like that's it.
And I hate the Mystic Art. I shouldn't have to look up how to do my super move.
I agree.
That is like, that's just horrible design. The enemy variety was good. I think it's better than Arise because it just felt like there was way more enemies. Even some of them are really bad designed. Like you're fighting a fucking tuning fork.
Yeah, it's like they weren't all winners, but there was enough of them. I think that Arise like just had to give up something, and the multicolored enemies in Arise were kind of a pain in the ass. But Abyss has that too, where it's like this
The,
enemy is like this but better.
it's just not as severe, but yeah.
Yeah,
I read a thing the other day that Arise wasn't supposed to be a Tales of game originally.
was
Which
supposed to be Star Ocean.
it's supposed to be its own thing. They're working on a new IP. But I kind of call bullshit because it has like every Tales trope ever.
Yeah, I was
So
about to say, after playing the Abyss, I understand now how derivative Tales of Arise actually is. Like all of the main themes are found in Abyss. It's just that the scaling, the pacing, the combat, and the graphics and everything is better.
yeah, the only thing I would say is worse is maybe the characters. I think this game has better characters.
Well, yeah, this game was made in a very particular way to make the characters as
I mean, that's the
I don't want to get
shining
into
like
that yet. I
it's
don't
the
want to get into that yet.
it's the
That
yeah.
is gonna make me get so upset.
What do you mean? That's the best, but this game is literally designed for character development. That's why I feel like
Yeah,
they wrote a 40-hour game like this is how you make character growth.
yeah, they did what they were supposed to do, and they did it to a reasonable extent, and it worked. But it's the same problem as Disco Elysium, where it's just vomiting shit into you all day, and your ear is just like bleeding from all of the fucking nonsense that you have to listen to.
At least
And
at least in Disco Elysium you're not getting hyper resonant seventh phone honest replica.
yeah, we're getting to story soon, dude. Don't worry. Yeah, I didn't want the gameplay to be more challenging. I just wanted like I wanted the AD skills to felt like they mattered more because AD skills have to proc, and you'll go through most of the battles without having to proc any of them. Cause like at some point you just smash through everything, and it doesn't matter what AD skills you have.
I'm guessing on hard mode it's harder, but good on
Yeah.
that.
And then I ran into like the gauntlet because I had to try the fucking Coliseum, dude. I had
Yeah.
to. And then like the enemies that would kill me in the Coliseum killed me so fast that it doesn't matter what AD skills would have procced or not. Like,
You just weren't like high enough level or geared enough to even.
well, yeah, because like you breeze through the Coliseum monsters, but then they do an expedition map with another party, which I assume is another party from a previous Tales game. They look familiar. I didn't look into it. But yeah, no, they wipe the fucking floor with you. Um, the puzzles, there was one fun puzzle.
They weren't
Um,
frustrating though.
no, they weren't.
And
But
they mixed them up too, because I was thinking there's a lot of puzzles like where you're in the abandoned factory, you got to fill the oil barrels.
yeah,
There was just a bunch of there was variety at least. Besides like collecting the orbs for the like those score things, that was kind of annoying. But
no, that just played itself. That wasn't that I wouldn't consider that a puzzle. That was go everywhere until you find the things.
there was a couple. There was one that was like a puzzle. I think it's in the beginning before you fight Arietta the first time. You can get
Yeah.
like the wrong ones and like too many, and then you have to. But it doesn't really
Yeah, no,
matter.
that was the worst one. That was undoubtedly the worst one in my opinion. Because when you go to the actual dungeons, it's like set up so like you could just do it. But when you go
Yeah,
to that, I think it's what not the tower, but like I
it's
don't
the
know,
abandoned castle.
yeah. And it's just it just wasn't fun. The castle also looked like shit.
It is like the first real dungeon too.
What was I gonna say? Like the game alludes like to like obviously there's like super bosses and like all this other cool shit you can do, but it's such a long game that I didn't care to do any of it. Cause like here's the thing, if I was 12 and I got this game for Christmas,
We always say this, but it's true.
and this was the only game I had, I would be stoked because this is so much content. Like especially for a PS2 game, so much content.
But also, this game is too dense for any 12-year-old to enjoy.
Yeah, I would understand none of it. It's honestly insane how much is in this game for when it came out. Granted, GTA fucking San Andreas was also on that system, so
Right. I just remember getting to the end, and because there's that part where you kind of get juked out and you think it's the ending, but it's not.
yeah,
I,
another Tales classic.
yeah, I was kind of pissed. I was like, I hope this isn't the ending because I'm not satisfied. But then when I got to the ending, I'm like, I'm good. I felt because they wrap it up well too. But
Yeah. Yeah, let's just move to story. Luke sucks.
no, he doesn't, dude.
He sucks for 98.8% of the game, dude.
I disagree. I think he sucks up until he's ready to die. Or
But that's all he ever talks about
no.
afterwards.
After not no. After you fight Van the first
Oh,
time.
okay, yeah. So yeah, just like 4/5 of the game, he sucks.
Well, that's okay. He
That's the
sucks
whole point. I get it. Yeah,
all of Act 3. I think he's good. But yeah, the beginning, he's like intentionally fucking annoying, and then Act
yeah.
2 is just like I don't know what they were doing. They kind of just made him really stupid, but I think
Because this
he
game,
redeems himself. He redeems himself for me anyway.
because like if we narrow this game down to like brass tacks, this game isn't about the politics or the lore or any of that. What it is a experiment to see if you can make the worst character ever written on purpose. He's bad on purpose, deliberately,
100%.
and then make you like him by the end. And I did like him by the end.
Well,
So
only because they nailed that ending.
yes, and Tears of God,
If
love
they
me
if
some
they
Tear.
they could have easily fucked the ending up and it's been like Luke sucks.
Yeah. So let's start from the very beginning. Before you figure out anything, Luke is a spoiled, rotten, fucking trust fund baby royalty brat. He's horrible.
With a fake daddy called Van.
With a fake daddy calls Van, and then Van's sister comes in and she's like, Van sucks, and brings him along on this journey.
Well, you get
And then,
teleported. Well, hold on. You get teleported to what is it called? Tataro Valley from a hyper resonance.
uh, all right, well, now we gotta go into that. There is entirely too much lore babble in this game.
But I think I figured out what everything is. So the game at least explained it to me eventually in a way that made sense.
But do you need to? Do you need to like really like grasp the full concept of memory crystals shooting from the planet's core up into an asteroid belt to make a mountain-sized pillar associated to each element?
I think some of them, no, definitely not. Some of them, like hyper resonance, yeah, I feel like that's
You
key.
do need to know that, yeah.
But some other stuff, no.
You didn't need to know that Lorelai's phonic frequency was the same as pi.
That,
You
yeah, that was pointless.
Like, there's so
314
much
is just,
shit that I just tuned out because not only did they spend the entire first act describing you this really dense material of made up shit from a made up world using made up words. And then they're calling the main character stupid because he is,
and
and we'll get into that.
I think that's a little bit genius though. That's like, oh, because they try to make you relate to Luke as much as possible. So they just throw all this jargon that he doesn't understand, and of course you can't fucking understand. So it's like, okay, I get it, because this shit is stupid, and he just keeps calling it stupid. So I sort of get what they were trying to do with that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's done the best, but they tried.
Well, the game is self-aware in what it is, and I think at some point, like people that were making the game understood like that not all of the game was going to be fun in games. Like it wasn't going to be something that everyone would enjoy all the time. It's made to be played over a span of a long time, not necessarily a month in long sessions. So like they'll make like shit like that, like, oh, Luke's dumb, haha. You should know this too, and we're explaining it to you now, and then Luke will be like, well, this sucks. I'm sick of doing this. This is boring, you know. And he is kind of speaking through the player's ideas sometimes, because they set it up like that. They intentionally make shit boring so Luke can say it's boring.
And that, I enjoy how much of an asshole he is, because yeah, after that, then you go to the Cheagle Woods. Actually, no, before that, you fucking when you go to that village and you just start stealing food
Yeah,
because he doesn't understand the
and that
concept
takes
of.
like 2 hours.
But it doesn't take 2 hours.
That whole thing, because that introduces that bleeds into finding Mew.
Oh, you're talking about, yeah, after that, because then you go to the Cheagle Woods. I thought you were talking about just in the town. Well, you do meet a lot of
No,
characters, because you meet Ion, Jade, Annis, and then yeah, you meet Mew.
Jade is one of the most well-written characters. I think I really enjoy Jade.
Yeah,
I
he's like
won't bring I
flawless
won't bring like outside games into this, but I think Jade is the most well-written.
in this whole game.
Oh yeah.
I could agree. I he's got an interesting backstory. The shit he says is hilarious. He says some hilarious shit throughout the game, and he's consistent. Like, I never felt like, oh, that doesn't seem right for this character to do.
The best part of the beginning of the game, and when I say beginning, I mean like the first 15 hours, is that even though Luke is a piece of shit, he does something that I've never seen like a protagonist in games do before, where they are intentionally useless to the party. Like he doesn't want to hit shit. He doesn't want to like engage in combat, even though he practices his sword all the time. He's like, I'm not really fucking with this. And then Jade and Tyr are like, well, then don't do it.
Oh yeah, because he can't kill people.
Yeah, and he spends the next 5 hours or so like coping with the fact that he has to kill people, and this is while he's a piece of shit.
Oh,
Um,
because he accidentally kills that one guy when they're on the land ship, and then he just
yeah,
can't get over. And they even address it like 30 hours into the game, where it's like, yeah, you keep having nightmares from killing people.
which like establishes that despite all of his flaws, he did have a lot of humanity like hidden in him or whatever. In my opinion, the game does not pick up at all until the mining village is destroyed.
Uh,
That is when I was genuinely interested in the game for the first time.
there's part. I mean, I liked parts. I like Luke being an asshole to Mew. I still think that's funny because I haven't seen that before.
Most undeserved hatred.
He refuses to name it. He just calls it thing for like 30 hours and tells it to
Listen,
drown.
it's like great character in my opinion, dude. Mute is a tiny, like, nonchalantly bumbling fucking blue creature that spits fire and got countless of his people killed for burning shit down. And he loves Luke unconditionally, even though Luke literally is throwing him against walls and talking mad shit to him the whole time.
It's a great dynamic.
I felt like Luke was gonna catch a charge, dude. Like, that shit was bad.
That's another thing. When you go to kill the Liger in the beginning of the game, like the first boss, and he doesn't want to kill like the eggs, he's like, "This
Yeah.
is fucked up."
So anyway, Luke loves Van. And at one point, one of the kings is like, Luke, you gotta go do this. Because it's written in the fucking horoscope. There's a horoscope in this game that people take as fact. And it's like the written word of the future and shit.
And he only addresses Van as Master Van.
Yeah. And so Van sets Luke aside away from the party, who doesn't know about this, like, necessarily, and says, listen, this is what the future actually says. But you realize that's a fucking lie. So you go to this mining town, and Luke is, like, chanting some shit, and then out of nowhere, dude, the game takes a huge turn, and Luke goes fucking, now say the magic words, fucking useless replicant. like just being really dickish, like worthless, pathetic creature. Say the magic words, you scum. Like shit like that, dude. And then the whole city gets destroyed. Luke kills 10,000 people.
That shit. And then you see the little boy drown in the miasma, dude.
The greatest scene I've ever, like, I completely out of left field. This no older than 9-year-old child is trapped under a dead miner. Not like miner as in he mines. He's a large man in a mining hat and he's dead on top of him. And he's on this like debris from the Titanic. And he can't get up because this dude's big and dead, and he's stuck in like this miasma that if it touches him, it'll kill him. And then, like, fucking, some of the party members want to help him, and then Tyr's like, we can't help him. And he fucking drowns to death in front of you.
This game just they kill so many people. I like that they add weight and aren't afraid to just kill characters.
Yeah.
Because you do not see that in a lot of games. They just like plot armor every character, and this game does not. I feel like at least half the characters that are like relevant die.
Yeah. And I don't want to say that a game willing to kill kids makes it better, but that's kind of how I feel. If you're willing to take your game's like morals and skew them to the point where you're killing children to tell the story, because it needed that.
Yeah.
It needed to wake me up.
Want to just add, because then they're gonna go on, another 10 hours where he's crying about doing that. But at least it adds weight to it. It's like, yeah, he just watched the kid drowned in purple goo.
So, shortly after this, Luke's at rock bottom. And then he gets dropped another bombshell right after. He's like, I just killed 10,000 people. But he doesn't want to take accountability for it. He's like, no, it was Van's fault. Van told me to do it. I don't know what I was doing. And then he realizes he's a fucking replicant. He's not even a real person. And he wasn't kidnapped. He was made 7 years ago. This dude's 7. And he acts like he's 7.
Yeah, and then it explains a lot. It's like, oh, okay.
So it's just like, so you're sitting there and you're like, kind of rooting for Luke to fail at this point because he's been nothing but a huge cock this whole time. And he falls the hardest out of pretty much any video game character I've heard of. Because not only does he have to live with the weight of the murder of 10,000 people through his ignorance, but then he realizes he's not a real person, and his whole party hates him, all in the span of like 10 minutes.
And then he becomes suicidal.
Yeah, and then for the next, I'd say 15 hours, anytime like you and your party like run around with Luke, Luke's like, I'm just gonna kill myself. I'm just gonna kill myself. If I could apologize for every death that I did and it would make it better, I'd do it. But if I can't do that, I'll just kill myself. And
I
that got so boring.
I see. I still like that because then they set it up because like when he actually gets the opportunity, he's like, "Oh, this was dumb," because I don't actually want to die.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh,
what are you gonna say?
so this is the biggest part. And this is where I realized that Mew was actually a good character. And I really, really, really wanted to hate Luke. I didn't end up hating Luke at the end, but I wanted to hate him so much. So after you blow up the whole village of people and everyone is mad at Luke, Mew is still there fucking with Luke. And he tells Mew to shut up, and then he doesn't know shit. But then Mew hits him with another bombshell, saying that Mew knows how Luke feels because a lot of his little homies died because of the fire that Mew started. So they actually have a lot in fucking common. And then he goes, "Don't compare me to you." Then starts crying like a little bitch. And I'm like, wow, dude, you had one friend. You had one friend that could maybe sympathize with your situation, and you're still a huge cunt.
That's why it's so great though, because even in his darkest moment, he still hates that fucking blue ball.
Yeah. And even by the end, he's just like willing to tolerate him.
He's like, "Yeah, you're okay."
So then you start Act 2, and that's a slog. That's a slog.
Honestly, it almost doesn't need to exist.
Yeah, it's just like you're doing jack shit for the longest time. And like you're meeting more characters, like you meet Lemon
You get the
and all of
airship.
that. You get your ship. You do not get fast travel in this game until like 95% the
Yeah,
way through it.
the
So
third
you're
act.
walking everywhere.
Well, you're flying,
Um
but yeah.
yeah, you go from walking everywhere to getting a ship to being able to fly, and it's all like I don't know, there's a steady progression, but it's not as good of a progression as like Xenoblade Chronicles. Like I wasn't stoked to be able to fly at all.
Yeah, Xenoblade, could they just set it up so well where it's like you see these huge mountain peaks and it's like, oh, I know once I get my mech suit, I'm going there.
Yeah.
And this game's like, oh, I know once you get my thing, I'm still just going I'm going to Chesadonia to Doth, to Batical, to Doth.
And flying sucks too because half the map has like sandstorms and thunderstorms
Dude, that gets so annoying.
and like tsunamis and shit.
And then
And
like
to
you
my
run into
knowledge,
it, dude, and it slowly backs up. It takes like 30 seconds before you can even
yeah.
control. It's so dumb.
Um. All right, so we start the redemption act. Luke's all sad and wants to kill himself, and then Tyr. God, God damn, I love Tyr. Um.
Oh, it's because this is where you wake up in Yulia City. Okay, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some shit like you realize that you and Ash are connected, and you play Ash for a little bit because Ash is the real Luke, and blah 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 blah.
That's pretty important, but yeah.
It is important. That's like a really big thing. Um, and then you're like connected through hyper resonance and etc. You learn a little bit about all the party members. Tyr ends up taking Ash, I mean not Ash, Luke under her wing a little bit because he's trying to be better. Um, I know it wasn't sudden, but at one point everyone just forgave Luke. Like he ended up like just being that guy
Well,
over time.
because he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna work on this," and they're like, "We don't think you are, but we'll see." And then he works on it, but
And then like
here's the problem with
no,
Act 2, dude. You just go to all the so what's happening in the game is Van's trying to lower the Earth, the outer crust or whatever, down. He's trying to blow up the world, basically. So he's unlocking these Sephiroth gates in Act 1. And then Act 2, you're just going back to all these places they forced Ion to open these gates, and then you're just you're just closing them or whatever.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
And it's all places you've already been, so it's not that there's a couple new areas, but yeah, you just run around and go to gates and slowly lower plots of land so it doesn't explode in goo.
And the dungeons aren't that interesting, but for some reason they're great to grind in.
I think the battles are just so fast.
Yeah. And I mean, we're skipping so much of it.
It was just it's just so hard. Like even like
because to explain what we want to explain, we have to explain all the things that the game explained, and that is just way too much work.
And that's like, even if you listen to this whole thing and like you have the whole game spoiled, you could go and play the game and you'd still get so much more shit. It's impossible to sit here and explain the whole game.
Yeah.
There's so much. It's stupid dense.
So like the game hits another lull for me after the city falls and you do all that stuff. But then like they hit you with another one, another like 20 hours in, cuz again, this is a 50-hour fucking game. For Colin it was 48, but I got lost. It was 50 if it was 52 hours. So at one point a city gets ran into by guards, dude. It's just like the cops roll up.
That's what is it? Is that Sheridan or no? Is it Shuri Hill?
It was where they were like
It's with Lemon. I know. Or
yeah, it's with Lemon and all the old people.
Sorry, Eamon.
Yeah, so like Lemon and all the old people and the scientists have like two factions that wanted to like they were both at 99 projects finished, and they decided to work on this last final project together so they could both get to 100. And it was really sweet of them, and they figured out a way to coexist together. And then guards pull up. And I think it was like to rebuild your ship or something. Some shit like that.
No. It's so you need this like gravity field thing so you can drive I forget what the boat's called, but you drive the boat into the Tartarus. You drive it into the core.
Yeah, the Tartarus.
Because that's what they give you, the thing, and you drive it in the core to like stabilize it or so the miasma stops leaking out. And they're building that.
So like they build that and you get there and then guards pull up. And then Tamara, who I haven't mentioned before, but she's just this old lady. She's just a side character. She hasn't done much. But she lays it all down on the line. And when the cops roll up, she pulls out a flamethrower and starts burning the cops to death to buy us time. Like really really fucking badass shit. So that woke me up a little bit. And then 2 minutes later, a guard comes behind her and hits her with a cheap shot and cuts her down. So she dies, and pretty much everyone there dies. Like Lemon died.
Well, because then you're about to escape, and Van rolls up, and you escape, and he just obliterates Eamon or whatever.
Yeah,
which was fucked up, but yeah.
And this game actually has a lot of that now that I think about it, because like you go to Batical at one point in Act 2 or Act 3, I forget which one, and then like you figure out that Natalia is like not of actual royal descent or some shit, but then the townspeople are all like, yeah, no, you're dope, and allowed them to get out because Disc came in and all of that shit. At one point, Tyr gets phonon cancer. So that was a big ball to be dropped onto you.
That's after Act 1.
Yeah, because you're a 7th phonon that could do it. Phonist. You're a 7th phonist that could do it naturally. But Tyr had to like suck phonons into her belly or something. And she got phonon cancer from it. And she's like, Everyone's weak. Everyone's weak and does everything they can to make like every time Ion opens a phonon gate, like she passes out, he passes out, and Anus comes up behind her. We haven't even talked about Anus.
I haven't even talked about
Oh my.
Ion. Like, that's a whole phone master, like the church, the
Okay.
whole dude. There's so much.
Well, all right. So let's go over Ion. So Ion
Well,
is a 2-year-old.
we have
Um.
to go over the religion,
uh, God, why
dude.
don't you take over for a second, dude?
The religion. What is it? The score. Well, that's the horoscope.
Yeah, the readers of the score.
I forgot what the religion's called. Anyway, he's like the Pope. And you find out that he's a clone because the other Ion was sick. So they cloned a sick child into a new sick child. And he's basically a 2-year-old.
But for some reason they replicate Ion like 70 times because Sync is an Ion replicant.
But a shitty one. He just
Yeah,
didn't
but a
have the
shitty one.
powers.
Also, I'm fairly certain like replicants always get suicidal because Sync immediately just up and fucking jumps off a bridge once he fails his job.
Well, and also the host always dies. I don't think they ever explained that. Well, they tried to like hide it, I think. But yeah, whoever was like the original, they always die no matter what.
That makes sense with Ash then too.
Yeah, because they try to explain it, and that's why his motives make sense too. Because he was always gonna die, and I think he knew that. And because yeah, like every other replica, they're like, yeah, that person's dead. Like at no other point is there a replica and the host alive. Besides Ash, who eventually does die, and was gonna die anyway.
Yeah. So going on to the third act, Luke is almost sufferable at this point. He's cut his hair.
Well, you missed
He's
this. You skipped the. What'd you skip?
well, like 90% of the game.
I'm trying to. Well, you fight Van. That's with the juke.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, you do go
The,
all the way and you go to the Tower of Rem
no, no,
and you
no, no.
fight.
So you go to the absorption gate.
Oh yeah, the absorption gate, and then there was what the replicant gate as well that was right next to him.
That's that's at the end of the game. You go to the radiation gate because you have to go back to the absorb. You go back to everywhere. I don't think you go any place once.
No. Um, so the absorption gate is where you have to change party members, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another thing with gameplay that I should have stated. This game splits the party all the fucking time.
Which
Like
I hate that
all the
too because then it rearranges the party and it's not the party you want ever.
yeah, ever. And then oh, that's another okay, so you could get surprise battled and that puts your party in a random order as well.
Yeah, if you're hit from behind.
Um so yeah, you got to split the party and like full dungeon puzzles are sick and everything, but it became way more tedious than it was supposed to be. Just because that absorption gate has like 30 levels to it.
It is big, yeah.
So like you use like one of the party members to go all the way down, and then you take teleporters throughout the entire level. And when I say this thing goes down, dude, it goes down. It's like the Hive in Resident Evil, like that basement thing. It's just a massively like straight line down thing, and you have to take like 17 teleporters,
And then there's
and
like a
then like
3-party puzzle where you get split up and you have to activate different switches for different members and move shit.
yeah, and you can't just switch members at any time. You have to stand on these little like glowing circle things to find a point to switch, and
Yeah.
not a bad puzzle, but just entirely too long.
But I get it though. They're setting it up for like what you think, maybe not what you think will be the final battle, but a pretty big battle.
And it is, and it's a pretty alright battle, I'm gonna be honest. I thought that battle was solid. The fight with Van was pretty good.
The first one.
Yeah.
It
I
was
didn't mind it.
it was good, and then yeah, you wake up in your back in your manor.
Oh, the bait and switch, dude.
Yeah.
I thought it was all gonna be a dream, and I was gonna literally throw shit. I was gonna chuck shit, cause these fuckers beat it way before me, and they're just like, "Oh, the ending's so good. The ending's so good." I'm like, "What if they were fucking with me, dude?"
I
Um,
I was a little annoyed too when that happened. I was just like, really? I was like, this is like the epilogue. I'm like, this is not satisfying at all. I feel like nothing was resolved, which it wasn't because there's another 20 hours after that.
yeah. So you'd fight Van, and then you talk to a bunch of people for the entire third act.
Well, the third
And then
act's
you
for
go to the Tower Realm.
then you go to the Tower of Rem. Well,
You fight Disc's robot again. And you never actually fight Disc, now that I'm thinking about it.
yeah, because I guess the hardest boss is Professor Nebulum, Jade's person he was trying to revive, and even that
Excellent backstory, by the way. Excellent
great
backstory. So,
backstory.
actually, I do need to explain that to get into my wild fan theory later. Um, so Jade, best written character in my opinion, has his backstory is that he's called Jade the Necromancer because he's a scientist that helps create all the replicants. Like he made the like science behind it, and he had this chick scientist that he was really into, but she ended up dying. And he kept trying to make a replicant of her, but it didn't work out. And apparently Dist figures it out at some point, and just to fuck with him, and you gotta fight her as like a bonus boss. But yeah, Jade the Necromancer does all the replicant shit. Mm. So what happens after? We didn't even tell you that like there's a whole fucking city, like of miasma under the actual world. Like that's why you get the plane, is because you go under the ocean into the miasma world,
Yeah, dude.
and there's extra shit you have to do there.
The more we talk about it, the more like because now I'm thinking back with the church with Mose and how he's trying because he's like a third antagonist. He's trying to start a war. He keeps trying to between the two continents.
Oh yeah, because when you blow up the minor town, they kept saying that like Princess Natalia died, and that was a reason to start a war. And just politics shit.
So yeah, then because that's what Act Two. A lot of Act Two is like you're trying to stop the war that's based on like nothing.
Which, for some reason, like I really latched onto that in Act One. I'm like, oh, this like has the ability to pop off. But by the time it popped off, I didn't really care.
Well, because you knew it was like this is just dumb, and it
Yeah,
was more of like a second plot point. It was cool that they had multiple antagonists like doing their own shit because like Van's doing completely opposite shit from Mose. They're not really connected in any way.
yeah,
But it was also like the least interesting. Like I was way more interested in what Van was doing than the stupid war.
yeah. Cause like at the at the base of all the allegories in this game, it's it's free will versus faith,
Yeah,
and it's atheism versus the the various religions. And all's Van is like a really good swordsman with the amazing atheist mentality of like, because he wants to break people free of the score by proving that it's wrong and shit. But like in reality, he's just being a huge dick. And then you find out that who's the chick with the guns?
Lagretta.
Lagretta. So like Lagretta trained Tyr, who's Van's sister, and it turns out that Lagretta didn't give a fuck about Van's motives because she was just in love with Van and shit.
That's what's cool about all the God Generals. They all have like their own reason,
Yeah.
and that they're like pretty good reasons too. It's not just like, but Lagretta's is kind of dumb, I guess, but Like I liked Largo's, where he's like, my wife died, so I just don't give a fuck. And
Yeah,
Arietta just wanted to bring back her home.
and Largo's also fucking Natalia's father. That works its way in somehow. Uh, God, there's so much to this game, dude.
It's impossible because you just go on a tangent about something and then you remember like, oh yeah, there's like 40 contextual points that I forgot.
And then, like, at one point, there's, like, double crossing and shit. Like, you get this dude Spinoza, and he was working against you the whole game.
Even
And then you, like,
Annis double crossed you.
yeah, all right. So at one point, they capture Annis, and then Annis throws, like, a teddy bear at you, and she's like, sorry, do this instead. I have to do this, you know? So she's like double crossing the double crossers. She's 9, by the way, and she fights with a giant teddy bear. She's not 9, she's 13. It's canonically older than 9. And her entire goal in life is to be a gold digging wife.
But for good reason. Because her parents were scammed and they have no money.
Yeah.
So at least I like that there's some backstory. Her dad's also a moron. He keeps falling for scams.
Yeah. And at one point, her mom gets hurt. And that's a whole side quest that I had to figure out how to skip, dude.
Oh, when the replicas roll up and you have to, she gets like electrocuted or some shit. I remember that.
Yeah. So, like, eventually, like, sinking the earth, or not the earth, sinking the whole, like, place wasn't gonna work out. So Van just starts, like, pumping replicants out of all these people that have died. And they actually do a really good job of, like, talking about the replicants in a way that, like, makes you care about what happens with them. Because a lot of it is just social shit. They're like, yeah, no, a replicant went to the funeral of the person they were replicated from, and it caused a riot. A lot of the replicants are being abused. So like, yeah, no, they allude to some crazy shit with the replicants, and it's like kind of like serfs or homeless people, you know, like they're like, and every country ends up having a problem with them, and
And then they sacrifice 10,000 of themselves so they can get land for
yeah.
the other replicants.
And the whole time you're like, well, Luke's a replicant, and he seems like a pretty good guy now. Like these guys, these replicants, they have like a whole story arc to do. I mean, you find out Ion's a replicant, and Ion is one of the most wholesome characters in the whole game. They do nothing but help people.
Blindly.
Yeah, blindly to a fault.
Yeah.
Um. So then you get to the end.
Well, dude, what
And
about Ion's death?
oh, okay. So Ion, remember how Tyr got fucking phonon cancer? Ion sucks all of the phonon cancer out of Tyr and then dies. That was pretty hype of her.
And then and then they bring Ion back. Like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
we
but
need,
this is like shitty Ion though.
yeah, it's like we just need another shitty dude to read stuff.
Yeah, and it's like they got like tattered clothes, and Anus actually puts them into the castle and was like, "Here, take care of this one." And they name her like the pure one or some shit.
Dude, there's so much shit. Because then, the island of Hod comes out of the
Oh,
water.
we haven't even talked about Guy a single time.
Guy, and then Hod, and then the Hod War.
Yeah. Oh, and the floating Hod city, and
Yeah.
then the tower that was commemorating Hod, and Jesus Christ. And what happened to Mar, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't really went into any of the characters. Like, Guy's afraid of women because he watched his sister be slaughtered and he had to lay under the body to survive.
And all the maids. He was hiding in a fucking fireplace. And dudes rolled up to his house and killed like 10 maids, including his sister. And he had to just lay under the bodies until they left.
Which is great because the whole game, this is like 20 hours. Like, oh, it's funny. He's scared of women, and they're like, yeah, because he had to lay under dead women's bodies.
Yeah, the game gets intense. It gets intense when it wants to. It is boring for the vast majority, but it goes places that few other games would have.
Or because Guy gets infected with that curse from Sync, and then he tries to kill Luke, and they're like, oh yeah, he tried to kill you because he actually hates you.
Mm. Really like that. And then you realize, like, oh yeah, no, your dad, your fake dad, was like a huge piece of shit, and like was the reason that all of that bad shit happened.
And he doesn't even shirk. He's like, yeah, deep down, like subconsciously, I probably do fucking hate you. And there's nothing I can do about that. But he's like, you're still my friend.
Who are we missing?
Guy, Tyr, uh,
Mew, Anus,
Jade,
uh, Jade.
Luke, Ash. I guess Ash is kind of a
All
character.
right, we haven't gone over Ash at all. So Ash is the real Luke, and he was kidnapped by Master Van, actually, and kind of had the same thing as Luke, where he loved like Master Van and all of that, and wanted to do what he was supposed to. But like, they both are like so the same in Master Van's eyes, yet they're both jealous of each other or some shit like that.
It's a weird dynamic.
Cause like they both strive for the affection of this dude so much, and he's like the biggest cock to ever exist. And then Ash goes on like this tirade about like wanting to like smite him down, but Luke is still like iffy on it. He's like, "No, we gotta stop him." And Ash is like, "No, you gotta kill this fucking guy." And then
Yeah.
Ash is like, "What's up with you?" And Luke's like, "I don't know if I could do this." And then Ash is like, "You're a little bitch. You're a little bitch ass baby bitch, dude. Little fucking idiot
Well,
bit." Like just
that's my favorite part. I'll be like, I'm not strong enough, and he's like, stop saying that. I'm gonna fucking kill you. Stop saying the clone of me isn't strong.
yeah. You know what it is? It's fucking it's Beth and Space Beth. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Cause Space Beth is this badass. We're talking Rick and Morty now. Fucking Space Beth is this badass fucking alien hunter shit, and normal Beth is just like chilling at home with her shit ass husband Jerry. Um, but yeah, no. At one point, like they describe pretty in detail how all the replicants suck and they could never be as good as like the main guy canonically. Like canonically, they are just flat out weaker. Their stats are bad. But then
Yeah.
you fight Ash as Luke and you're better somehow.
Well, and
Still,
at that point, that was like, I hated Ash. He was so annoying when right before you fight him.
well, yeah, because he goes from like this like I have to kill Van type character to this like Highlander there could only be one type dude.
Before that, you should go over the God Generals, because like Act 3 is where you start killing them. Like you kill Arietta.
Oh my god. All right. So the first thing you do like pertaining to the god generals is like you get pickpocketed by one, which is one you never fight. She's just like this fucking chick. And then the others slowly pour in. And you got Arietta, who's this chick around Anus's age. And you fight a Liger on top of a building, which is the hardest fight in the game because you don't have shit. And you defeat the Liger. Then about 30 hours goes by and you realize that the Liger is her mom. Um so that's Arietta. Arietta also loves Ion as well.
Because she was the phone guardian before Annis.
And then there's Sync, who is
He just
like
sucks.
the most wannabe, edgy, fucking like he only exists in the game to fail.
And the God Generals are basically like they're Van's guys.
Yeah.
He's got some guys and some dudes.
And there's like this weird power dynamic where you think Dist is like the leader of them, but he's not. He just like is egotistical and pretends to be.
He might as well not even. He was just like he's doing his own shit most of the game.
Yeah. And like Largo has the coolest weapon in the game. I think he has the coolest. He's like fucking giant monster Wolverine scythe wielding guy. Um
You also fight these people a million times.
yeah.
But
they're like your what do you call it? The rival trainer in
yeah,
Pokemon.
but when you do kill them, I think everyone you kill is pretty satisfying. Because you kill
Yeah.
Arietta, and then you get that Largo speech where he's like, "Don't be sad. It's disrespectful."
That is another thing. This game approaches death in the most in some of the most mature ways I've ever heard. Cuz it happens with Tyr as well. This game really tries to like push in the idea of advanced grieving. So you grieve as less as possible. Cuz these people wanted to fight to the death and they did. And as soon as somebody starts grieving because they died, like a speech goes on about how your grieving process is actually like disrespectful to the life they lived.
Right. I don't remember what happens when you kill Lagretta.
Lagretta explains how she was in love with Van, and then
Oh
Tyr's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
"This sucks," and then Jade is like, "Well, she died doing what she wanted to do," kind of like the Largo speech.
And then you kill, or you kill Largo before Lagretta. I forgot. Largo basically just acknowledges Natalia as his daughter.
Yeah.
Sync is fucking pointless.
You don't kill this though. You kill lots of his robots.
You kill Mose.
Yeah, Mose goes from a pope to being corrupted to at one point he's this like ethereal blob mimic type creature
That's zipping
that has like
around, dude.
that's like oh my
That
god. Yeah,
cutscene.
no, he's like this big like amorphous blob with like weird arms and he's purple and he's gross and fat and ugly and then like there's one portion of a cutscene where he's just spinning around in the air, tumbling at Mach 10 and going in circles, and I could not stop laughing. So that was a really important part of the story.
I forgot that you think Sync and Van die, but they go into the center of the earth, and there's a god called Lorelei, and they suck him up and live.
Oh yeah, and Lorelei is the Earth. Lorelei
Yeah.
is the planet. So Lorelei starts talking to Luke at one point and is like, "Do this shit." And he's
He
like,
goes, bring me the slab
"Yeah." And Luke slabs it up,
with his jewel, the jewel of Lorelei.
Oh yeah, no, the Jewel of Lorelei shit pointless.
Kinda,
He's
yeah.
like he's like cuz Ash is running around looking for the Jewel of Lorelei and Luke fucking had it.
Inside him.
Yeah, yeah, Luke is the Jewel of Lorelei. And that
Well,
just pissed Ash off to no end.
that's the dumb. It's not even that he is the jewel. Lorelei put the jewel in him, and then he takes it out, or it falls out when he almost dies.
Yeah. So
Oh,
then like
I forgot about that. After the Tower of Rem, you're like fading away. You talk to the doctor, who only gives bad news, and he tells you you're
yeah,
gonna die.
worst doctor ever. He's just like, "Yeah, this is what happened and there's no way to fix it." Every time. Every time, no matter what it is. He's like, "Yep, no cure. Peace out. Anything else you need?" Um so yeah, you're fading and then you don't fade. And then Van conjures the power of Lorelei cuz apparently Lorelei lets that happen. But he can't contain it well. And then you fight Van again.
You kill Ash. Oh, well, you don't actually. You don't kill
You
Ash.
don't kill Ash. Ash dies the same way Tamara did, dude. by some bitch ass soldier that runs up behind him and stabs him in the back, and then 40 other soldiers run up at the same time. And I kind of like how Ash like
That was a good cutscene.
died. What?
It was a good cutscene where he's fighting
Yeah,
those soldiers. Yeah.
because at the very least, Ash was a man of his word. He said the better man will get to go, and the worst man stays behind, and he did. And he almost fucking whooped the shit out of all these guys. Like he went out like fucking Leonidas, like fucking Spartan 300 Spartan style, dude. And if it wasn't for like one fucking dude that got that got the jump on him, like, but it had to be that way. And then Luke feels it because it's like the Matrix.
Yeah. He's like, he's dead.
Yeah. And then it's- and then here's another thing, dude. Natalia, she's got to pick either Luke or Ash, dude.
Well, does she?
I get they're the same person, but she's in like the weirdest fucking like love triangle ever.
It is weird.
And then like so yeah, you fight Van and Tyr is like having exposition in the middle of the fight too, because that's really what it is. Is like Tyr ends up being a really, really big part of the end. Like,
She hits that grand phonic hymn.
yeah, and oh, we're getting to the good stuff.
The end.
Yeah, because the end was really good. They stuck the fucking landing.
Yeah.
Cause like the whole time, like when Ash is ready to, I mean, when Luke's ready to kill himself, dude, like he's walking around the castle and he has to talk to a bunch of people, and Tyr's like fucking, like upset, like really upset, but she won't show him. She never shows him anything. Like, just keeps calling him an idiot,
Yeah.
and she kept hiding it the whole time, And then you get the good part. That makes it all worth it, and it gets you right in where it wants to get you, dude.
Yeah, you kill Van, and then Luke's ready to die, and everyone accepts that he's going to die, and then he hits the I love you, and then you start sinking into the earth, but you also grab Ash on the way.
Yeah. And then this is important. At one point, they're talking, and they're like, "What are you gonna do after all this?" And Jade is like, "I'm gonna still work on replicant shit." And Tyr's like, "I don't know what I'm gonna do." And Anus is like, I'm gonna do more shit with Ion and all of that, And
Oh, the new Ion, yeah.
yeah, the new Ion. But Tyr's like lost and distraught. So then credits roll. And we haven't even talked about the singing, but she ends up singing at the end, and it's one of the greatest ending songs ever. Because after all this happened, like the wound is still fresh, and to hear Tyr singing is just great. And then a little anime cutscene comes up,
And
and they're just
that's
sitting. And I have a theory.
what's your theory?
Okay,
Well, I guess you explain what happens.
So what happens is that Tyr's bummed out, and it's time for Luke's funeral. So some time has passed.
Well, because Luke also, before he died, promised that he'd be back.
Yes, that is important, actually. He promised. He promised he'd be back. And so Tyr's waiting for him in this fucking field at night. And everybody's sort of just chilling. And she's like, "I'm not going to that funeral. It's a fake ass funeral." And the guy's like, "Yeah, nah, fake ass funeral. I'm still going, but it's a fake ass funeral." And then this motherfucking Luke guy comes out of the shadows and fucking walks up to Tyr and is like, "I made a promise to somebody." And Tyr starts crying and hugs him, dude. But the final scene is Jade smiling. And my theory is that Jade fucking made that Luke. Real Luke is dead. Jade made that Luke for Tyr. That's my
You
theory,
don't
and
think
I
it?
haven't seen it anywhere.
You don't think it's the fusion theory?
The fusion theory makes sense
I think it has to be the fusion theory. I think
because it shows Ash's hair, and then it's Luke's hair.
it's like, and they're wearing like a combined clothes. He looks weird. He looks like a fusion of the two.
Yeah, and it could be both. It could be that like somehow Jade got like the remnants of both of them, maybe the best of both, and made this fusion. But I genuinely think Jade made that fucking Luke, dude. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because Luke was a replicant to begin with, and it made Tyr really happy.
It could. I mean, it would make. I don't know. See, we don't understand phonic replication, and you know the ins and outs of the technology.
Uh, No, we don't. And even though they've explained everything to excruciating detail, I have forgot way more than I've remembered about the science of this world.
Right. I
Because like there's an asteroid belt of pillars that emit energy from the memories of the core that shot up, and each pillar is like an element, but they're not all elements. Some are like concepts. Like it's just weird. But yeah, no. All in all, throughout everything, the game did what it was supposed to do. It was just one fucking hell of a problem getting there, dude. It was a slog.
I just looked up the ending cutscene again. This guy has a pretty good theory about the Jade smile, because in reality, Jade is the one who changed. Like, he changed the score, because Jade made the
Again,
replica.
yeah, again, like I didn't really get to fully flesh out that idea because I was so stuck on like, oh, I figured it out. But Jade really is like the real protagonist of this story.
He's the
Um,
catalyst for sure. Like, all this happens because of him.
yeah, good and bad, and
Yeah.
he holds that weight like a fucking G, dude. Like he's on some Heisenberg shit. He's like, yeah, I'm Jade the Necromancer. What's up about it?
he has a, he has another name too. He has too many names.
Oh yeah, fake names, dude. Fucking well, a lot of the names aren't fake. They're just like Tyr's real name is Mysterica, and Van's real name is Van Destelka.
Largo's name is Baddock. Sync his
That shit
name's
pissed me off. There was
Ion.
no reason.
That's his real. All I think all the got well except Legretta's real name's Lucas. Yeah, so that shit makes no sense.
Even at the very end, like before you're going to fight Ash and like all that shit happens, the game tells you to go to Emrakul, but Emrakul's not on the fucking map, right? And
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
it doesn't explain that at all. You have to go to Cassidonia. And that just was the last straw for me. I'm like, this game is fucking insufferable.
They do explain it because this is the worst part, dude. So I have the breakdown here. You go to Batical, the Absorption Gate, the Radiation Gate, and Chesedonia, and then you go to Eldrint, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they tell you to go to Chesedonia in Batical, but that's before you go to the Absorption Gate. It's like 3 things before you go to Chesedonia.
Sick.
So I could see how you would definitely forget you'd have to go there, because they all are like, when you're running around and like getting all the people, like, because they got to set up this shit so you can get on the floating island or whatever. But they're like, yeah, we're gonna meet in Chesedonia.
But yeah. Favorite character was Jade and Tyr. I hated Tyr at the beginning because she scammed me out of $180,000
I don't even know
because
how that happened.
this dude wanted you to get books, right? And Tyr's like, what do you mean you want us to get books? He's like, go buy me some books. Here's 200,000 gold. And Luke's like, all right, peace. And then Tyr's like, no, we don't need 200,000 gold. And he's like, oh, just take 20 then. And you walk away with 20,000 gold.
That's not bad though.
And then you never get the books. I never got the books.
I never did that at all, so they must not be that important.
Opinions.
I could see how somebody wouldn't like this game. I could also see how this could be someone's favorite game. It's very easy to hate the game. I don't know. It's worth playing for sure. It's dated and it has problems. But I feel like if you're more aware of that shit going in, it wouldn't be as bad.
This is a game that I wish I was as old as I am now, but this game just came out. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, that this was like the pinnacle of what
Oh,
games
so you
were.
wish you were in your late 20s in 2006.
Yeah, this is the only reason why I would want this, by the way, because that sounds like dog shit.
Right.
But to play this game with like the mentality I have now, because it really is like it's Tales of Arise, but for that generation. I just think that the pacing is horrible. The pacing is so bad that it ruins the game for me.
Yeah, if there's one bad, like, because whatever, there's a bunch of like shit that's like mediocre, but the pacing is fucked up. It's like the actual bad part of this game.
There's a lot of things that I think were done deliberately to inconvenience the player, and I don't fuck with that.
Yeah, the padding's crazy.
Even if you lampshade it through dialogue, it doesn't make it like worth the effort. I don't have a lot of good things to say about it aside from the good things that I've already pointed out, because all of the good things go down to the very end of the story. And like the two scenes that I stated previously with the fallen mining city and the old people standoff with the flamethrower. And Jade's backstory. And it seems like I liked a lot of the game, but when you really think about it, I liked probably like 10%.
Well, because that's the thing.
Game.
Characters are great. The themes are good. The story is good. It's just told in the worst way and paced horribly, which makes all that shit kind of like the background. But the characters are really good. And I think the game ends super fucking good.
It's not like it's good enough to where I think the game was worth playing, but it's not good to like be up there with like Nier or Soma for me. Like it's somewhere in high mids. Like
yeah, well, I don't think it's like an insane like. And those games just have better packages. I feel like if this game overall was better, the story would shine better. But it's kind of, you're polishing a turd in some aspects.
I think it's kind of even with Life is Strange's story for me.
Nah, that shit's that shit's kind of like in its own tier for me.
Yeah, no, I mean like just like arc wise, like cause with Chloe, like she starts out and she's like a horrible friend. And then by the end she's like willing to do anything, and you end up liking that character a lot. At least I did. Not in a sense of like equally footing stories, just like making a comparison here.
Right.
I don't know where to put it story-wise. Like To the Moon maybe? Cuz To the Moon was kind of a slog, but the ending was really fucking worth it. But To the Moon was like 4 hours long,
And that's the thing with this, like I think this is a really good ending, but it's hard to say like this game's worth playing for the ending. Cuz
I can't say that.
I can't either. you'd have to enjoy other aspects of the game, which I feel like people can. Because a lot of people I've seen say this is their favorite Tales game, which I understand. I don't agree, but like I get how they could get there. Or a lot of them say this has their favorite Tales characters too, which I completely understand.
I get that. I understand that fully. I mean, Violet still reigns as my favorite character,
But that cast
but
was not had worse characters like as your group, in Berseria.
oh, you mean in Berseria? Yeah, and I think that's why I like Violet or Violetta, depending on which fucking one you played. But like, I think it's because Violet was the one that stood out the most in that game. Which is why I liked her so much because her story was very streamlined. It's
Yeah.
like it's a revenge story, and then you find out why, and you find out the bigger part of the world, and you find out this, and you find out that, and like it's really well written. It's really well done. She has good motives. She's not always great, but then she ends up being great. But like when it comes to Tales of the Abyss, the one thing it does very well is character growth. And I think one of the only reasons I like Jade so much is because he's already grown from the beginning. So you just get that you just get good Jade the whole time. And this game needed a good character the whole time.
It does a good job at living in the gray area too. Like a lot,
Yeah.
lot of the theme, everything's gray area, which I like. There's not a lot of black and white shit in the game.
Yeah, cuz I mean, you're not fighting for like where you come from. Cuz where you come from kind of sucks.
And it's not even actually where like you're a fucking android essentially. So
Yeah. And that's really like a good theme that they explored, like, cause that's the whole fucking story is that this dude doesn't have anything to fight for except for himself and his people.
yeah,
And he realized the value of himself much more, and it's like a diagonal line on a chart. The further you go into the story, the more he values himself. Um, but it kind of like squiggles a little bit because in the beginning he cared about himself way too much. Um, and then like it builds enough sympathy to where it does level out. Like he is such a bad character, which you can't fully understand unless you play this game. You can't understand how shitty of a character he is until you play the first 15 hours of this game because it's insufferable.
they really it is like intentionally bad, which is would be interesting from a writing perspective, but
Yeah.
it's rough to play at some points. You just don't give a fuck about him at all.
But then like Luke does have one of the most tragic downfalls. And the more I spend not playing this game, the more I remember how fucked he was at the moment of the mining city falling and all of the events that transpired like shortly after
Well,
that.
it's the whole party just shitting on. No one's like besides Mew, but they're all like you suck. And usually you
Yeah.
don't see that at all. There's
Yeah,
always
cuz like
somebody that's like, "No, it's fine, dude."
yeah, Tears like fuck you. Anus went from in love with you to saying fuck you. Guy had enough. Like everything was done. On top of him finding out he's a replicant and on top of him being responsible for all these deaths, even though he didn't like fully want to admit that for quite some time. And I don't know, the more that I stray away from this game and time passes, the more that downfall counterweights like who he was. Because at the end of the day, with everything in perspective, he was just like a snot nosed brat.
Yeah.
And I had this whole argument for how like Ion is actually a 2-year old and is more competent than him. And how like the argument that he's 7 years old doesn't really fit when you have a 2-year old that's like that competent. But at one point Luke states how he's just did what other people have told him to do his entire life, which kind of made me realize that he can't take the full responsibility for
Right.
what he's done. And even though he is like a rich little snot-nosed brat trust fund baby that's completely useless to the party and makes you cringe at how fucking aggravating he could be, it is not entirely his fault. But he was willing to hold that eventually. I just wish it didn't take 60 hours for that. This game could have been easily 20 hours. Easily. They could have trimmed this. There is so much fat on this fucking game.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe 20's kind of short. 30 though for sure.
30 with extra shit, dude. You fix the navigation system, that knocks off 10 hours from me off the bat.
Yeah. I want to say it's so long because they wanted to like build up the characters, but I know that's not true. That's just me lying to myself.
No, because like,
You're just fetch questing for a lot of the game.
and it's all flavor and fan service, a lot of it, like an extreme amount. And you keep saying like this is some people's favorite Tales game. I get that. I can see someone being wholly and totally invested to every aspect of this game's universe and just like being so stoked because the game gives you so much.
And the
And
world building's pretty dense and intense compared to some other Tales games
yeah,
with all the phonic hymns and phonons and shit.
yeah. I think Tales of Arise did it better, but that's not fair because Tales of Arise came out 20 years after.
I think Tales of Arise is a better game. I think the stories, it kind of just feels like a copy of this, but worse in ways.
It kinda, it just does its scaling way better,
Yeah.
way better.
I just don't think the
Um,
characters are as good, and I think him being a slave is less
he's a
interesting.
slave for 10 minutes.
Bro, he's like, who am I for 20 hours?
Uh, that, uh, that's a whole thing. I wish we did Tales of Arise with the podcast, dude.
He's
Because it's
basically like a.
impossible for him to know who he is.
I
He's a
know,
goddamn experiment.
so's Luke, but I don't know. I think the Luke is a better trope of what they were trying to do in Arise.
Yeah.
Because even if you hate Luke more, he's far more interesting than whatever the Arise guy's name is. I forget.
Fair. Arise did have that corny type thing where it's like, it works because like there's like a boy and a girl and they love each other and shit like that, and that's what creates the energy for like the two planets to fucking go together. And it was weird. It was. I might play that again because I really do love that game.
It's a
I
good game,
cannot in
but
good faith say that this game has a better story, but I would have to play Arise again and compare and contrast only because I fucking loved Arise.
yeah, I don't know. The story, that's hard to say if it's a better story. I do think these characters are better.
Yeah,
There's
I agree
some
because
some of the characters are shallow as fuck in Arise.
well, yeah, I can't remember for the life of me what Rinwell's story was in Arise.
Me either.
Like I understand the main character and Sejuani's or whatever the fuck her name was is like
Sejuani. Is that a lead
she had a
character?
dumb SH name. And then like the Indian mage, I knew that, and then the female blonde paladin, like she was kind of boring. But
She was
I
supposed to
could
be like the
safely
Jade type, or well, I don't know. There's no like Jade type. I don't know, the characters are so much better in this game.
yeah, I can firmly say that the cast in this game, even side characters like Lemon, like it makes you care about tertiary characters. Like, because if you think about characters that you know by name in this game that you had to know by name, it's like 40.
Yeah. Even the enemies, like I was interested in like, oh, this guy I know I'm gonna kill. It's like he has an interesting backstory. Or Dist, a comic relief character, he still has crazy depth.
Anything else?
I don't think so. I mean, it could go on forever, basically,
We
but
we really can't like To talk about this game to the extent that it would deserve to be talked about, it would take 10 hours.
It's harder to talk about than Xenoblade was because that game was more straightforward. And it was just less dense.
Well, yeah, because a lot of Xenoblade was like just leveling up.
And a lot of the good shit in Xenoblade is just like random side quests. Like the main stories, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, this game has like 4 continents with like 6 factions, like 2 religions, a, a planet god, uh, a king for each faction. Each king has their homies that you have to remember. Like it has fake science.
Replicas.
There's replicas. Like it has so much shit, dude.
There's an
And
inner
then
Earth
each
and an outer Earth.
yeah, and then each town has their own shit. Like there's like there's like special people in each town that you need to know. And there's just so much. When we say it's a dense game, we're not fucking kidding, dude. Like this is a very very dense game. And I would not suggest playing this unless you're like ready to fully commit yourself to this game. Cuz if you don't fully commit yourself to this game and say I'm going to beat this game, you're not going to. This isn't a game you can play passively. You have to pay attention.
It's yeah, you'll like if you played it for a week and then took a week off, you'd be so lost.
Yeah, you can't even know where you're going,
Yeah.
like, without paying really close attention. And I know people say they don't want their hands held, but there is advantages to getting your hand held. And this game doesn't do that. If you don't know where you're going, you gotta look at the synopsis. And if the synopsis doesn't tell you where you're going, you're gonna have to ask around. Like,
This game's not the worst one, but it's like it's bad. It's just hard once you get so used to modern games that literally just have a giant yellow thing that you go with a fucking compass that you walk towards, you know?
yeah, I probably could have beat this game in 45 hours if there was a little fucking dot telling me where to go on the map. And that's all I needed was a little dot on the map telling me where to go. And the game doesn't give it to you.
You don't think it's worth playing though?
Only if you're ready. This is a game I can't recommend. I really can't. It's a great story.
I think
It's a
if you like Tales games, I feel like it's worth playing.
yeah.
It's a Tales
Yeah.
game. Literally every Tales trope ever. It is hard to go from Arise to this.
Well, that is another big problem. I would say if you're new to Tales, you should probably play this game. And if you played Berseria and Arise, you shouldn't play this game unless you really want to. Like,
Or,
really want to.
or have a very good understanding that the gameplay is worse. It's
Yeah,
not
and it's not
modern,
even
and
like
it's not even like well done for the time. It's just worse.
yeah, and it's not like a different flavor. It's not like going from chocolate to peanut butter. It is bad. The pacing is bad. The combat is not good. I can't say the combat is bad because
It's
it
just
did serve its
serviceable.
purpose.
Yeah, yeah, it works.
But like what this game did for me the most is like show me that I do actually want to play Zestiria because I was scared to go back and play Zestiria, and now Zestiria looks fucking amazing comparatively,
And now we can just play every Tales game.
which we'll probably end up doing.
My that's the best part about book club. It's just like I don't know, you just play games that's like that would just sit on the shelf forever.
Yeah.
Like this game. This game I probably would have never played it.
Under no circumstance would I have played this game, and if I did play this game, I would have dropped it. The only thing that kept me playing this game is the fact that it was book club, which isn't enough for some people, but you know.
But I'm glad I played it. It's not a game where I'm like, I wish I didn't play this.
No, I think it's a feat of accomplishment, only because it was a war of attrition. I gave up a lot of shit to play this game. I gave up High on Life because I was really stoked on that.
You can still play it. Saying I gave it up means like it's dead.
I gave up ranking in Duelist. Like, I made this game a priority.
You got gold. You didn't give up
I did get
shit,
gold.
dude.
Duelist 2, that's another takeaway from this game. Duelist 2 is sick. That's something I want to
Duelist
say.
2 is a game.
We're at scores, and you're gonna yell at me.
I probably will yell at you.
I'm giving this game a 4 out of 10.
That is insane.
A 4 out of 10.
You cannot give it that. That doesn't even make sense.
I enjoyed less about this game than most games.
That is a lower score than you gave Bahamut Lagoon.
Bahamut Lagoon had more interesting combat.
Hell no.
With an easier to digest story. And it was less time.
Barely. That, I don't know.
What did I give Bahamut Lagoon? A 3?
Out of 5,
That was when we were still doing out of 5.
3 is hot. So what would that
3
convert
is a
to?
6 and 10 score. But I give this game a 4, and honestly, 2 of those points are out of story. The very ending.
That
Because
is
if the ending
crazy.
sucks, I was going to literally trash this game.
That means you have it on the same tier as Bug Fables, which is crazy.
I give this game a 5 because it's better than Bug Fables. I changed my score to 5.
Yes,
That is my official score. 5 out of 10.
I think you should be at a 6.
Absolutely not. I can't in good faith give this game a 6.
That's crazy. It's not.
It's an IGN 6.
Dude, it's a Frank 6.
No.
You gave Recore a
5.
6.
No, I gave Recore a 4 as well.
Recore is okay. Well, it's above Recore.
It is above Recore. I'm giving this game a 5 because I was upset with the game at least half the time.
But this shit's better than Wolfenstein, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because this game works. Wolfenstein didn't work.
I feel like in a month you'll be like, this game it'll grow on you, I think. I feel like it already has a little bit.
This game could be fine wine because I think about this game more than most. I have not sat here and lamented about a game as much as this one.
So it did something.
Not in a while. Not since Soma, not since Nier, not since Life is Strange. But the story isn't up to that caliber. It's just that the characters are that good. But the amount of time you have to waste doing what feels like nothing. I feel like I wasted 30 hours on doing nothing.
It is some bad game design. I can't even lie. But
so what's your score?
I don't know.
Mine's a 5.
I'm okay, so I think I'm at like a 7. I could see myself going to 6 depending on the day. I could go.
It's not an 8.
I could go up to an 8.
That's wild.
It depends on my mood, or it depends like how heavy I'm weighing aspects. If I'm weighing the gameplay heavy, it's a 6, maybe even a 5. But like the characters, and I enjoyed the story, and the music was good. I don't know. Like I could go to 8, but it's like a 7. Maybe not an 8. I could go to a 7.5 at my peak, but 7 for sure. 5's crazy. 4 was wild.
4 was wild. I didn't put it into context of Bug Fables. Thank you for that.
4 is Act 1 or Act 2. Act 3 at least moves it up to a 5.
Yeah, but like for me, the biggest reason that it gets such a low score is because I did not enjoy the vast majority of this game, and I can't even pretend that I did. Like, it's just like a cold hard fact that the majority time spent in this game, even with like the cutesy little like side shit and fun parts of the writing and all of that, it was just such a slog and so unbearable at points on purpose. And I just can't forgive that. Because this game is bloated. It's bloated, it's heavy, it's dense, and it gets weighty at times. It goes really far in directions that you want it to go. But I've never played a game that gets so deep yet remains fairly shallow throughout the things. Like it is like like oil slick on a driveway, like shallow from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah.
And it forces you to do so much gameplay to get to the story. But to get to the story, you have to get explanations from before you're allowed to know the other parts of the story. And then they re-explain the things that you already know so your character can act differently. And it's so padded. It's like a room of solitary confinement. It's that padded sometimes. I
I
just did not enjoy a lot of it.
I think the easiest way to fix it too, because they do it at some points in the game where it's like, oh, we got to go here, and it just teleports you there and continues the story. It probably should have done that every time. Instead of having you walk out of the town, fly to the town, walk to the place. Like, I feel like just changing that would probably fix the game. It would at least shave off like 15 hours.
Yeah, having fast travel from the start.
Yeah,
While
at least if you've already visited the place, that would be
yeah,
huge.
like while it would like some people like walking everywhere, and I get that. I understand that. For like a newer game like The Witcher, if you want to ride your horse around in The Witcher or Red Dead, or if you want to drive around in GTA. But maneuvering throughout this world is not a fucking strong point of this game at all.
Yeah.
Like under no circumstance.
I like overworlds, but this one's pretty trash.
No, because it's a maze. And the map is bad.
Yeah,
Steel Rising's map was practically non-existent, but at least like that map didn't fuck with you.
yeah,
Like
this
it
map,
told you
nothing
to
lines up on this map at
no.
all.
Like the scaling is wrong, and then like the map has like barriers to it that don't make sense. Cause like the continent that you're in, every continent is a fucking maze. And you think you could just walk a straight path from town to town, and you can't. You have to go up and around and in a circle and then diagonal and do zigzags. To the point where like you're just walking around in the overworld and you've been there for a half an hour fighting monsters that aren't even close to your level. So you're
Yeah.
just wasting time. A 5.
5, I can I can live with a 5. It'll grow on you. You'll come back in a year and say 6.
I will think that if this story resonates with me, which it will, over time I'll remember more of the story and less of the gameplay. I will never ever ever play this game again.
No,
Under
I
no
I don't think there's a point cuz
no
it's
fucking
not
way.
fun. I wouldn't say it's fun, but it left an impact. So it did
It did.
something.
It did. I really it got to the point
It
where
wasn't
I
a
was
nothing.
making yeah, I was making theories on characters and the ending, and it interested me enough to do that. And the characters are good, but
The gameplay is
the game is
bad.
literally mid.
Yeah. It's the
5 out of
definition.
10 is mid.
I'll give it a 7, which is IGN mid, so
Yeah. The next game's story won't be as good.
hopefully some better. Well, it's gonna be shorter, so I already.
It's gonna be yeah, yeah, you think I could find a game shorter than this? I don't think so, dude.
You might throw a 60 hour
Let's see how long it is. It is significantly shorter.
10 hours.
About that.
That's not bad.
Yeah. So the next game's Evil West.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, because what was that PS2 cowboy game, dude? Where it was like fucking like Dark Watch. It looks like Dark Watch and God of War mixed together. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
pumped
it's,
for
it's
Evil
this
West.
game. Yeah, this is a game.
This is a game.
This totally won't be another Recore.
Yeah.
No,
And if you want, apparently it has a co-op mode.
that's interesting.
So it could be like some Ashes of the Remnant or Remnant of the Ashes type thing. Or we could play it by ourselves because we still gotta beat Dark Pictures Anthology and all of that.
And Halo.
And Halo. Listen, we're gonna play Halo in 2020 fucking 4.
Oh, you can play the whole thing in co-op too.
Yeah.
That is
And you know, since it's just us,
right. That is an option.
it is an option. If that's how you want to do it. So I'll leave that up to you because it doesn't matter to me. If you want to set aside some fucking time and sync up what we're doing, I'm down
It's a
for
good
it.
idea. We could just throw, the fucking devil in me in there too. Then too.
Do a double game of the month and compare and contrast co-op.
Could,
I mean, if you want to do that, I'm perfectly down.
because they're both relatively short.
Yeah.
It's an option. We'll probably play it because it says you can play the whole game co-op. So it's like, why
Yeah.
not?
It'll probably depend on how fast we beat it.
If it's co-op, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like every time. Might as well though. Something different.
January, dude, the month of co-op.
It's season 2 of Book Club, dude.
Because it's just us. Oh, game of the year. Game of the year for book club.
Oh, could
Yeah,
throw
no,
that in
it's
there.
about that time.
Okay, so technically, Bug Fables we can include it. It was the end of the year last year, but my game of the year would be Tales of the no. Fuck, that's tough.
What do we got? We got Recore, Record of Lotus War, Deedlit, and Wonder Labyrinth, Fallout, Katamari Damacy, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Voice of Cards, Wolfenstein, Parasite Eve, Bahamut Lagoon, Dante's Inferno, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, Steel Rising, and Tales of the Abyss.
I think I might go Castlevania.
I do Xenoblade Chronicles.
That was probably my second, and then Record of Lotus War maybe be third.
Record of Lotus War is my second. Parasite Eve is my third.
That's up there for me too.
And then Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, and then
there's a lot of shit that it's not even close. Fallout,
yeah,
Bug Fables, Recore.
Yeah. In my games I've beaten thing, it says Fallout, and then in quotations the first one, and then in other quotations fucking Brad. So I did not like Fallout.
And then in quotations, cheese the whole game because it's the only way to beat it.
That is also one of the shortest games. If you knew what to do in that game going into it, that game is an hour long.
Which is, yeah, again, horrible, dumb game design. It's like, there's just so much. That game's horrible. That game's dated. You cannot go back and play that shit and be like, this is cool.
Worst game,
Bug Fables, right? For you.
worst game is Bug Fables. And it's not even close.
Recore for me, 100%.
Recore makes sense. Recore's down there. I think Recore's third worst.
Wolfenstein second.
No, Wolfenstein's fourth. Voice of Cards.
That's just like the definition of mid.
I was swindled.
True, because it's not a card game.
I was so swindled by Voice of Cards, and Brad fucking knew it too. He goes, "It's a card game. It is not a fucking card game. Great aesthetic, but I was swindled." Um, I was surprised. The sleeper hit is Aria of Sorrow. I did not know I would like Aria of Sorrow that much.
Dude, you like Metroid? You like Record of Lotus War too?
I did.
Those games are fun because they're short and they're pretty. You're kind of like always making progress in some way, so they feel pretty good, and they're not too hard.
Um, Dante's Inferno was meh.
Steel Rising might be the biggest disappointment.
Steel Rising, well, you know why we played that, dude. I played it because of spiders, because I really loved Greedfall. But we really played that to get us prepared for Life of Pi and, you
Yeah,
know, being able to say it. Oh, sorry, not Life of Pi, Life of P.
Lies of P.
Lies of P. Because now we can play Lies of P and just go, this is better than Steel Rising because of this.
Yeah,
Steel Rising had the worst story. Comparatively to how it was set up. It was set up to be this really sick story, and they just dropped the ball in every aspect they could have.
might be the worst ending out of all the games we played too.
Oh yeah. Um, any games you played this year that weren't on book club that you really fucked with?
What did I? I definitely did play something. I have a list that I've maintained very shitty.
Oh no.
I always end up doing that.
Actually, the further that goes down my list, the worse it's formatted too. Because in 2020, I had it all separated by month and categorized, and then in 2021, I just dropped it all, and the same thing for 2022.
Okay, so I have everything on here that I beat that wasn't book club, but also book club. Symphony of the Night, which was good. Uh Sifu, forgot about that.
Oh my, yep, there's people that have beaten Yang and people that haven't, and that's just the end of it.
Trek to Yomi, which was mediocre.
Yeah, I wanted to play that, but then you told me
It's not
it
worth it.
wasn't worth it.
And then this is probably my game of the year that's not book club. Superman 64 hard mode.
Oh my god. That is content that we missed out on. All right,
I
so
should have
for anybody that
recorded
made it
that.
this far, this fucking guy went on a journey.
I still think no one's done it. I still can't find a hard mode playthrough.
Describe the last level real quick.
It's a I would how long do you think that level is? Over an
An hour
hour.
and a half.
So
I
you're
remember distinctly it being an hour and a half.
dude, I barely even remember it. I remember you're doing so many fucking things. You got to get bombs. You're falling through the floor. I
You
can't,
go
dude.
back in time.
You have to freeze a little boy and push him through a room full of lightning bolts. And if he unfreezes, you fail the mission. And this is an hour in. And then you have to reset the whole thing.
And you have to play it on hard.
Yeah, you only get this level on hard mode. That is a game.
Best games that I beat this year that weren't in book club, I kind of cheated a little bit. I still recommend Tyranny. I replayed Tyranny, and it's one of the few games that I've beaten twice. I love that game. Anyone that likes CRPGs, play Tyranny. The Evil Within 2 was fairly decent. My sleeper hit overall for this year is Proteus. If you like Doom, especially old Dooms, play that game. It's amazing.
Not
Um,
Dragon's Dogma.
and it's short. Dragon's Dogma. Holy shit. Okay. So Dragon's Dogma was a game that I have been trying to play for like a decade and finally was able to play it. Um, what an experience. And I am so hyped for Dragon's Dogma too. Um, I recommend Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen to anybody that hasn't played it. But again, you're gonna have to wanna play it, and you're gonna have to understand that this game is about fun and fun only. If you're not having fun, figure out the way to have fun, because fun is to be had.
You know what I beat that I didn't put on here? That Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. I
Oh
forgot about that.
yeah, dude. The chaos, dude.
I still think that's worth playing. It's fun. It's
I
goofy
might
but
play that.
fun. It's definitely. I feel like they added some shit to it. You might enjoy it. It's fun combat. It's definitely something. Goofy as hell though, for sure.
Um, I have to get this off my chest. I don't like Disco Elysium. I beat Disco Elysium this year. It it is it is a writer jerking himself off for 60 hours. That's alls it is. And I wish I could say it was more, but it does what it does well, but that is a game where you will look at a trash can and this dude will write a half an hour's worth of text about this trash can. And at the end of it, you'll be like, I just wanted to look at the trash can. And some people love this game, and the game deserves to be loved, but I can't do it. So if you like Disco Elysium, sorry, but I fucking did not like that game whatsoever. Because I enjoy good writing, but there is a difference between writing a good story and writing just for the sake of writing. And this game was made by a novelist, all right? He wanted to write. So, and wrote he did, but it's definitely a quantity over quality. There's good parts of the game. There's lots of parts that I did enjoy, but it is excruciating at times. I also played God of War, the 2018 version.
I think we might have played the Dark Anthology games last year.
We did do that
Okay.
because yeah, that was right before Jade Empire,
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah.
which was a great game as well. Jade Empire was really good. Um but yeah, game of the year for Book Club, Xenoblade Chronicles X. Game of the year in general, that I beat. Um,
Superman 64.
Actually, this is a tough one.
It's either
We'll put
Dragon's
Xenoblade
Dogma.
Chronicles X as that one too, because I don't feel comfortable putting Tyranny in there. I've beaten it twice.
Not Dragon's Dogma?
No, no. Dragon's Dogma had the best combat.
Oh, it was just everything else.
Yeah, because like I didn't care about the story. I didn't care about the characters, but hitting shit in that game feels amazing. Um, and anybody that likes Dragon's Dogma that hasn't played Kingdoms of Amalur, please play Kingdoms of Amalur. Um, but yeah, that's games of the year. Anything else?
I think that's it. I think
We
we're
did it.
done.